Take a Ride podcast. I'm your host here, Starks. You can find me on my Twitter handle. It's at Starks_industry. You can also find me on Instagram, One Closing Hero. I'm not here alone this evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you may be in the fantasy world. I have the wingman running the three, LT the Sage. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. Good to be here for these Friday night games and seeing all the updated news, man, with you tonight.
Awesome. And you guys are probably like, why is this guy wearing a tie? And I actually have my hat off today. The reason why is just hang on there to the clutch shot. It's going to be some interesting news that I want to share that I think it's really important for you listeners. So what we're going to touch up on this episode in particular, we're going to go over recent news and we'll talk about some injury updates as well. So if you guys can look at the website real quick, make sure you guys subscribe to newlifefantasy.com, join as a member. Also join the mailing list so that way when an article comes out, it will come to you. We handle fantasy basketball, baseball, and football. We touch up on dynasty leagues in all facets. And then as you can see, LT the Sage is going to also be working on an article in the future with the Sage Eye. So that'll be nice. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, give a 5-star rating and write a review in that aspect. And also we have our YouTube channel that we're doing live almost daily at this point in time. So make sure you guys Sub-Zero, that sub button at the bottom, hit that thumbs up, and as well as comment at the bottom. It definitely helps us out, guys. So with that being said, I'm ready to take people on for a ride. So one of the news before we get into the recent games in particular is it looks like Carmelo Anthony doesn't seem to be playing until Tuesday. Is that right, LT?
Yeah, so he's not going to be meeting with the team until Saturday. So he's going to probably need some time to get acclimated with their system, some of their, their play calling and stuff like that. We were hoping for maybe a Saturday show up for Melo, get him this week, but more than likely we're looking at Tuesday as the first game with his new team, and we're all excited to see if he's going to be starting. And I'll be checking out the blurbs for you guys because I get all those Portland beat writers. I'm following all of them on Twitter. You already know if I get any idea of his rotation and role in the team, I'll make sure to let you guys know first on this podcast.
Awesome. And then also on top of that, it looks like there's some better news for those GMs and within ourselves, because as you guys know, the injury bug is all over these players in the NBA, unfortunately. And I know those fantasy owners are having a headache with either PED situations or just injuries in particular with long-term absence. But if there's any glimmer of light, Miles Turner may be probable coming back here the next game. So that's definitely a good sight to see. So it's going to knock down a little bit of Domantas Sabonis usage. Well, I wouldn't say that, because once we touch up onto the game, I think there's some more important things to talk about. So let's go ahead and go into the recent games, LT. Run that ball, brother. What team you want to talk about, man?
We might as well just transition. I did want to put in one quick blurb here. Brandon Ingram is probable for Saturday's game for the Pelicans. So I just wanted to add that for you guys. I know we've been worried a little bit about Brandon Ingram. They've been pretty hush-hush on his injury. We didn't really understand the severity, but he is probable to play on Saturday. So it looks like he's back.
Nice.
So we'll go ahead and switch over to this Indiana Pacers Houston Rockets game. And Indiana lost. They're still 7-5, but they lost to Houston 102-111. And we're going to go ahead and go straight into the Pacers side of the ball here. Starks, Domantas Sabonis had a great game. He's been playing heavy minutes since Turner comes back. I know you kind of alluded to it. What do you feel like is his role as soon as Turner comes back?
So actually, I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit. This is a good game that he had with the 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 assists. His field goals was pretty much, he was as efficient this game. 6 for 8 at the free throw line, not too bad there. But I think I was going to say maybe he drops a little bit on the side. But honestly, it looks like Malcolm Brogdon had a back injury this game. So maybe he'll be still fine. And I don't think Malcolm Brogdon, he didn't return back in his game. So that was a little concerning because, as you guys know, Malcolm Brogdon, I think we're all universally liking him this year at this point in time. I think it's for real. if Malcolm Brogdon is out for an extended amount of absence, Sabonis would actually still hold his value for what he is right now. But as far as Miles Turner comes back, and if Malcolm in the middle Brogdon is fine, then I think Sabonis is he'll still be a good player, but some of his value will drop a little bit just because of Miles Turner coming back. But I think it's honestly still safe to say he'll be okay. But let me also segue into if Malcolm Brogdon's going to be out for a while. Aaron Holiday is going to get a nice bump up with usage. And then obviously TJ Warren G, as we know, will do as well as fine. And then the other Holiday will get some time in particular. So those are the type of guys I'm going to look at. If you're looking to pick up a player in your free agency or waiver wire, this evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you may be. So I'll pass you the ball there, LT. Who else you want to touch up on there, brother?
Yeah, I just wanted to run back on Justin Holiday. Justin Holiday this time. I know there's two on there, Holiday Hart, but basically what you're looking at here is Justin Holiday got almost 40. He got 39 minutes tonight on the heels of that Brogdon injury. So if you're looking for a quick ad, maybe Brogdon's out for a day or two here, you want to pick up Justin Holiday. He looks like the beneficiary of that injury. He played 40 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and just check up on him and see what his last game's looking like. And let's see his minutes. So he's been playing the last 4 games upwards of close to 30 minutes per game. So good. 28 minutes last game, and then 30 minutes 2 games prior to that. So he's been trending up on his minutes, but again, he had 39, so that's close to 40. So you want to make sure you keep that in your back pocket if you're looking for pickups this week. Other than that, Doug McDermott also had a pretty good game, 7 for 15 off the bench. He played 30. Yeah, I know. McBuckets, 32 minutes, 7 for 15 from field goal, 3 for 6 from the 3, and 5 rebounds. No, I mean, he doesn't really do anything here. Your stock stats, he's not that type of guy. But if you're in points format specifically, if you're looking for a pickup, he's probably someone to look at if these injuries are proceeding. But with Miles Turner coming back, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, so and real quick on top of that, I think the person that's going to take, if you could scroll down there, LT, the person that's going to take down some of a hit is actually Goga, because Goga came back in this game. In a dynasty format, I really want my hands on him. If you're in a deep format, hopefully you bought him when he was injured at that point in time, because he was giving you those sneaky stats. He's a guy that could give you some good percentages with some nice blocks and slaps is what we like to call them. So definitely try to dial up with a GM, but it was a good sight to see him come back. In particular, he only had 18 minutes this game. That's okay. And he did get a slap. But look at this. He had a plus 19 on the floor, the plus minus rating. So he's a good player, ladies and gentlemen. It's just what's going to be hard for him to crack many minutes in the rotations because of Sabonis. It's because of Miles Turner, right? So that's 2 guys that's going to be really hard to leapfrog. But I'll at least say this is if any of those 2 go down, and the thing is, I know you guys are probably familiar with that terminology when it comes to handcuffs in fantasy football. I don't like to do handcuffs in fantasy basketball, I'll be honest. But if I had to do one handcuff, it would be Goga, right? So I'll go ahead and pass you the ball there. And real quick, TJ Warren G did not have a good game, but that's okay. And Jakar Sampson, I don't know why he continues to start, but that's where we're at. So if you want to go ahead and transition to the Houston game, unless you got something else to say, LT.
Nah, it's just funny. I didn't mention that, but when I saw him in there, I thought the same thing. I don't understand why he's starting. I don't know what he gives them, but they lost, so they might want to think about that. But anyways, I'm going to switch over into the Houston game, and I'm going to give my ceremonial James Harden rant. 13 for 26. He actually was efficient this game. Go figure, right? You can't, the beard, right? Actually being efficient when he takes 14 threes, 6 for 14. Come on, man. Again, play regular basketball. Stop shooting 14 threes a night. 12 for 14 from the charity. Okay, Mr. Flop himself. 12 for 14. 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 swipes. I can't believe I'm saying this. He's killing it in the swipes the last couple of games. Adding that little nugget for his fantasy relevance, and then 44 points. Is he like 3 games straight with 40 points? I gotta check this out, Starks. I got to. I wouldn't be
surprised, man. But I don't think so. But you never know, right?
Oh man, I can't.
But you check that out. But while you're doing that, I want to also talk about
close.
He was close.
Look, he
definitely was close.
Almost a 6-game stretch of 40 points or more. Like,
Hey man, look at the minutes though. The last 3 games, that's ridiculous, right? 40 minutes, 44 minutes, 38 minutes for no reason.
They running him down, man.
You know what's funny though, because like the last few years, you would think to be a little bit safe with Harden. And as you guys know, we'll talk about superstars, but we don't pretty much expand on. But let me expand on this. It's funny because Harden over the years, in fantasy in particular, and even in the NBA, you don't want to basically, like LT said, you don't want to run them to the ground, right? It's almost like, who used to do that? It was Thibodeau, right? When he used to coach the Tibbs, he would drive his players to the ground. He would grind them to death, right? And it's like Harden's been doing that here the last few years. I would say this: if there's any player that deserves load management, is Harden. And if anything, if you're going to do load management, like just give Harden maybe 34 minutes a game. Like one would say a game, but like some games give him 34. But kind of coming back to this Ben McLemore, I wanted to say I actually mentioned him. I mentioned him on the last episode. I don't know if you remember, LT. I was like, listen, if your boy Daniel or Danielle House Jr. doesn't start, I will stream Ben McLemore for some threes. And guess what? He wasn't efficient, but 4 snipes out of 11. That's a beautiful sight to see. With that said, he scored 21 points, and he's not going to give you anything else really, but those points is really handy, those 3 points. And he got 32 minutes inserted in that starting lineup. So, hey, if you are able to, like I said in the last episode, if you could have streamed him today, yay. That means you could use them for tomorrow as well, too. So you might get some good stats tomorrow. So you got a double-double or double-double toil and trouble is what we say. That's some good stats. And honestly, he might deflate tomorrow, but at least you're going to still get some type of stats, right? So kind of going to PJ Tucker, Project, I'm going to say Project Pat, right? But I'll say it like this. 5 points, 12 rebounds, and that's about it, right? But he did get you some. Did he get you some stock stats? I'm sure he did, right?
Yeah, 2 steals.
So yeah, got you exactly, man. PJ Tucker. Let me just go on this ISO real quick.
Yes.
The funny thing about PJ Tucker is like he's just like a real NBA player, like a grind. He almost reminds me, and it's not to say he's like this player, but it's like Ron Artest, right? Ron Artest does what he's supposed to do. PJ Tucker comes in and does what he's supposed to do, right? They're 2 different players, but they have like a same mentality in their role, right? Obviously, Artest was better in his prime, but the thing is about PJ Tucker is he's going to give you those weird stats, and he gets you those rebounds under the radar, and he gets you those steals and blocks secretly in those threes. And honestly, that's really handy for you in a 9-cat category league, right? He could do that like each game. And what I mean by that, sometimes he falls in under the radar, top 75, top 100, sometimes even better. That's just the way it is. And nobody wants to ever pick him up because it's like, it's PJ Tucker, Project Pat. But I'll pass you the ball there, LT.
Project Pat. Why do you know about that guy? Anyways,
I don't know.
That's serious. Anyways, I just want to, that's all. There's not really much. Again, Houston usually runs a pretty tight rotation. Their starters play crazy minutes. So that's no different here with House Party, my guy House Party, kind of going down. Big McLemore's been seeing minutes, but also Austin Rivers. He hasn't really ran away with any games recently with his extra minutes, but I did mention him before. He had those 30 minutes tonight. So he's actually coming up and taking a lot of those 6-man minutes that Ben McLemore actually was running before. So that's good to see. I just, before we switch off, I didn't really see anybody else on here. I just want to let you know that they played Tyson Chicken Wings.
Yes.
They played Tyson Chicken Wings at center for 25 minutes tonight and won. I just want to make sure you guys were aware of that in the fantasy world. Do not pick up Tyson Chicken Wings. We gotta see what's going on with our guy Clint Capella. Hopefully it's not a long-standing injury. I don't think so, but if anything changes, we'll let you guys know out there. But we're gonna switch over to Washington, who's been just scoring the rock at a high clip last week or so. So they're a really fun fantasy team to look at. And I gotta switch over. I gotta say, Starks, I was really surprised because at halftime, your boy Cat had about 25 points at halftime. And he only, I hate to say this, he only ended with 36. I thought he was gonna go
top 50 at least.
50. Yeah. 25 at half. I was like, man. But it looks like Bradley. I'm gonna switch over to Washington real quick. I'll let you. I know that's your guy, Cat. I'm gonna switch over to Washington side and do a little gushing of Bradley Beal. This guy is. This guy is doing his best Harden impression. 15 for 22, but I mean, he's more efficient. 1 for 5 from 3, 13 for 14 from the charity. So he really was aggressive tonight. And that's what you like to see from Beal. These games he's turning in, and the changeover, he's really turning into a superstar. You know what I'm saying? That based on these games and what he's playing with, him being pretty much the only great guy, good star on that team, he's carrying them in some of these games. 10 assists. He got you a double-double with assists, 2 steals, 1 block. 44 points. He is on a tear lately. And like I stated in a couple other episodes, if you got him and he was going in like the later half of the first rounds, beginning second rounds, if you got an early second round ADP on this guy, you're looking very smart. And then Pizza Guy, I'll switch the ball over to you. The Pizza Guy played tonight. What do you think about his performance?
He didn't deliver the good pizza. He didn't deliver pizza, but he delivered the Little Caesars tonight. That's okay.
Little Caesars tonight.
Yeah, he got a little Caesars tonight with 10 points and 5 assists, and pretty much empty stats behind that. I will say this though, he's still starting. That's a beautiful sight to see. 23 minutes. But I definitely want to talk about, Thomas Bryant his minutes was a little low this game in particular too, but he did have 9 rebounds if I'm looking at that right, as well as 12 points. But the guy I want to basically talk about as well is obviously I'll talk about Rui Hachimura, Orochimaru. He only had 25 minutes, but he took 10 shots, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 10 points, and he fell into 2 lucky stats of steals. But the main guy I want to talk about is Troy Brown. Troy Brown Jr. And the thing about him is, I'll say this, and even in a deep redraft league, he's definitely a handy player to have on your team because of the out of position stats that I believe that he can have in your even in your dynasty league. Honestly, I'll put it to you guys this way: in a dynasty format, I like the glimmer of upside that he has. It kind of reminds me of what player is it? He could be the handy guy of the Kyle Anderson that we wanted him to be. A few years ago, and just Kyle Anderson is just not panning out. But it's like maybe not the field goal, the percentages, but the difference is Kyle Anderson, if you guys are familiar with it, he would get you those out of position stats with the rebounds, which he did, or even a small inkling. And I'm not saying he's Otto Porter Jr., but he can give you that smidget of that. The 7 rebounds is an out of position stat from him, what type of position he has, right? The 2 steals, and sometimes he'll sneak in a block and 11 points. So those stats don't seem sexy, but what is sexy is to get those players that was more in a shallow league that you would have been able to pick him up, and he might be available in a 10 to 12 man league. So is the 26 minutes is a good sight to see. Maybe that bumps up, but that is just me wanting to talk about him. And if you could scroll down to the bench as well, I think there was someone else I wanted to talk about. No, nothing in particular, but I know Moritz Wagner, I think his name is called Wagner that way. He was goodness. He was 13 for 15, hit all of his snipes, 15 boards, 2 assists, a steal and block. Oh my goodness, 30 points and a plus 18. 30 points on his plus and minus rating on the court was 18. This was funny because me and Jacob was talking about this guy earlier, and I think Jacob had an article. I don't know if it was him is gold, but I know we at least talked about him in a dynasty format. Is if he gets the time and opportunity, he could be valuable. But the thing is about him, the inconsistencies will come his way. Is there anybody else you want to talk about in Washington here, brother?
Nah, man, I'm good. We can switch over to the Minnesota side. I'll go ahead and just touch up on a couple of guys here. And then I'll let you talk about Cat. We got Culver's Ice Cream, my guy. He actually played 30 minutes tonight, 4 for 10. Wasn't efficient, but 2 snipes, He kind of struggled at the free throw line, but 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 swipes in that 30-minute time frame and 11 points. And he played alongside, and this is the main thing, he played alongside Jeff Teague, who started at point guard tonight. So Culver looks like the guy as far as playing next to Culver at this particular time. I know we were questioning how their rotations were going to look at once Teague kind of came back from that injury and took his starting spot back. But Teague also played pretty well. He was inefficient, but he hit 5 of 6 from his free throws. He got you a double-double, 11 assists. Usually he gets you a steal or two. He usually is able to get a nice little feisty steal every so often there, but he got you one block and then 13 points. So T coming back, if you held on to him in 12-man leagues, this is a stat line that you do actually like to see from him. And I'll pass the rock over to you for for Covert and Cat.
Yeah, so I'm glad you were talking about to bring up Covert, because I definitely want to aim at Covert Ops, is what we like to call him. This is back in fantasy years that me and LT go back rivals, so that was a perfect name for him. And real quick, and this is going to ISO, do you remember that year that I picked him up in the free agency, in the waiver wire, and we're just like, I was kind of being funny, but like at the same time, he was like killing it for like the first couple of games, and then he kind of like
fizzled out.
I don't know. It's just like, yeah, he fizzled out, but he played good, but it was like, he played differently. Okay, so let me just go on this ISO for the listeners. When Covert Ops came up and started playing, I think it was at the Philly days at that point in time, he hit it was like 8 snipes, and he was going to the charity stripe like he was hard. Like the first 2 games, like, huh? He was like, he was like there like 11 times at the charity stripe. And then like all of a sudden he did fizzle out. But the difference is when he fizzled out, we found out the player that he became. He wasn't just a sniper and scorer, but he was getting those hustle stats, right? He was a steals and block specialist. So to get off that ISO rant, getting back to this, because I haven't shown Covert Ops the love that he deserves. The 26 minutes that he had, 4 snipes, definitely good, 6 rebounds, only 1 steal and 20 points. But let me say this real quick, LT. I know there's been a lot of listeners kind of like, they don't feel too confident about him. I'll say this. I'm confident in him only if I know he's going to be healthy, because that's the big issue. It's always something wrong with his knees. The injury bug somehow formulates to come his way, because honestly, he's easily a top 50 player or better. That's only the big if he's on the court, because of the hustle stats that he gets and the snipes that he gets. But anyways, getting off of that, Karl Anthony Towns, like we kind of mentioned, Cat had a good game, and it seemed like he was going to explode, but he didn't get the 50 points after dropping, what was it, 25 the first half? Is that what you said?
Yeah, about 25. He dropped 25 the first half, and I really thought he was going to this was going to be one of those games for Cat. But I mean, 36 is still good. Let's not get it. Let's not get it twisted.
Exactly.
I mean, it's still good.
Yeah, that's still good.
I thought he was about to go off.
Yeah, but the 10 points and 36 points and 10 rebounds, that's good. 3 assists, the 7 turnovers, not so much. If you could scroll down there a little bit.
Yes,
and I'm just tired of Trevion Grant starting. I don't understand that. But anyways, Layman, as you would call layman's terms, right? He's still getting minutes, just like Jacob was talking about. In that perspective, as far as like maybe utilizing and streaming them, Josh Okogie, he's another player that we've been talking about that I like to see get minutes. It's a beautiful sight to see. 5 for 10. He made all of his charity stripes, 6 rebounds, assists, got you a steal, 12 points. He didn't have the best plus-minus rating on the court, but that's okay. There's better days to come, and we can transition to the next game there, brother.
Definitely. So we're going to transition to the next game, and pretty much all these games are finalizing here. So we got the Utah-Memphis game, and my eyes are going straight to Triple J, who I believe had a pedestrian game. Wasn't the greatest game. 4 for 13. He missed all of his threes. So that's the big thing, right? He missed all of his threes tonight. So that didn't add to his effectiveness. 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. He was doing so well. He was doing so well, Starks, and it's a little bump in the road, but it's just one game. So we'll continue to, hopefully he can bounce back next game and give us some stats he was getting before. But I really wanted to touch up on Memphis because Dillon Brooks. So Dillon Brooks, he had those 2 games where he was pretty much off. He was kind of off. He was looking like a bottom of the barrel type of guy. Looks like he was going to go back into that fantasy irrelevance, and then he just explodes. The last couple of games, 30 minutes tonight, 7 for 15. decent. I mean, you only won off of your 50% goal there. 3 for 4 from the charity. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and 20 points. Even fell into some stock stats tonight. And so he's looking good the last couple of games. Is this sustainable? I don't know. I don't know if this is something that can be a normal occurrence. There's another guy on the bottom of this bench I'm going to touch on. We had a listener question, but I am going to pass the rock over to you, Starks. Anybody else in this Memphis side that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, if you could scroll down a little bit there. So Jay Crowder, your boy, he's still getting the minutes there. So that's definitely a good sight to see. You got to just hold him almost in all formats, right? Yeah. I think he had 10 rebounds and 11 points. So, yeah, so that's still handy, just to have on your team. Jonas Valanciunas, he did get just a tad bit more minutes, so that was good to see with the 8 boards and 10 points. I mean, that's not a lot, but at least he's getting the minutes. And honestly, like I said, let me just talk about Dillon Brooks, like you had mentioned, LT. I don't know how to really perceive him, honestly, man. I don't know how to accept him right now, but I mean, you cut coupons, and maybe you didn't cut coupons. You probably got him for free, right, from the waiver wire. So that's something that you should be excited about. Now, I think me and LT, because we don't agree on too much because we're rivals in that sense, but I think we come into agreements on Ja Morant. Now, he wasn't efficient this game, but he was pumping up the volume. 9 for 22. He got the 8 assists, right, and he got 25 points. This guy is going to be a good player in this league, and it only makes sense. And honestly, I could see him getting better this season immediately just because of Memphis, the type of team that they are. They were running that high-octane, well, I wouldn't say high-octane offense, the high fast-paced offense that they have in particular. Scroll down a little bit more. Kyle Anderson definitely is still getting minutes. And I know I just talked about him a little bit like, who was that player I was talking about? Troy Brown, kind of similarities to him. Exactly, like 7 rebounds, right? That's exactly what Troy Brown just had. And 2 assists, I think that's similar to what Troy Brown had, right? In the 13 points. So this is why I think if Kyle Anderson is another player, the only issue with him is it's just injury history with him. And honestly, it's going to be hard for him to crack stronger. Well, he's not going to – it doesn't seem like he's going to start for this team anymore. I think – does he deserve it? I mean, he had the opportunity last year, just the injuries. Solomon and Gomorrah, Solomon Hill, I don't want to talk about him. Or Solomon Grundy, I don't want to talk about him. But Brandon Clark, this is a dynasty darling per se. 5 for 7, pretty good. 4 rebounds, a block, and 10 points. And I know for those dynasty owners, they're probably kicking themselves because it's like, oh man, Starks, I paid a high draft pick. And let me just put this out there. I didn't recommend drafting him high. He's definitely worth an ad or a drafted player, but he was going as high in dynasty formats in the hundreds. But he's more for the future. So if you're building long term, that makes sense. I would understand that. But this year, I was saying I don't expect it this year because look who's ahead of him. You got Triple J and you got Jonas Valanciunas. So that may change. Obviously, as the season progresses on. And looking at Memphis's record, they're 5-7. If they continue to kind of like lose, if they're more under that radar, then, maybe they give him more minutes and give him more leash, right? And I know this is another guy people are talking about is Marko Guduric in Hooked on Phonics. He didn't have a good game. It was 0 for 6. And he had a goose egg and 1 assist. So I'll pass you back the ball there, LT, if there's anybody you want to talk about or if you want to move on to Utah side, brother.
No, just to kind of Marko Guduric, that was the listener question. He was asking, we had a listener question where he was trying to figure out whether you would rather have Marko Guduric or Nazir Little from Portland Trailblazers. Yeah. So, and Marko had a decent game, I think last game, for where he's at. And so it was, I think the listener thought he may have won that right away. I think that Nazir Little is someone that, not right this second, right? So when you pick up Nazir Little, he's going to be ramping up. But I think that by the midway point of the fantasy season is when you're going to really see that kind of take off. He's going to need some time. He's a rookie, right? They didn't play him like they should have the first 10 games of the season. They should have played him a lot more. So he's going to have to ramp up a little bit. But I think he'll be in that, to be honest, Starks, I feel like he has that covert ops DNA in him. And so he can, if he can get some time in those minutes, like I stated, 25 minutes or plus or more, we'll see if he can run next to Carmelo effectively, but we'll see. But I'll go ahead and switch over to the Utah side of Utah side, and Donovan Mitchell coming out. He looks like the beneficiary tonight. 9 for 21. Yeah, 1 for 8. He took 8 threes though. That's the thing that you want to see there. He took 8 threes. That's good to see. At least he's attempting, but he only made one of them. So most of his misses were from the 3-point variety, but he's attempting them. 10 for 10 from the charity line. Wow. You love to see that. 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. He just got it all done for you with 29 points. And I'm going to touch up on one more player before switching over to Starks, and that's Rudy. Go
man.
Bear. What a game. 9 for 11. So he's efficient. 5 for 7. You'll take that from a big man. 17 rebounds. 17 rebounds. 1 assist. That's not his game. Didn't get a steal, but look at here. 5 swats. God, man, that is game changing in category formats. Big night from him. 23 points. You love to see it. Starks, anybody else on here that shoots out at you?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you touched up on Gobert.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm gonna say this: I'm selling him like hotcakes in a dynasty. Yeah, I know but that's even still bold to even say that, just because of he's a good player, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not to say he's a bad player, right? But let me say this: as we were talking about him, I don't know if I'm sure you remember LT. We were kind of like, when you start losing your blocks. Now it's good to see him get these slaps back, and hopefully this will continue to grow. But the thing with certain players like this, as you get older, your basically your blocks start to dry away each year. And it reminds me of DeAndre Jordan, because without his slaps and you just have rebounds, then kind of who are you, right? And I'm not saying Gobert is going to be that immediately this year or even next year. He's still got time left, but I can see him starting to kind of not look, wouldn't say look the same, but I can see some regression to start to slowly come in that aspect. So in a redraft format, yeah, absolutely, you're going to hold him unless someone's going to basically knock your socks off with an offer, right? But in a dynasty format, I honestly would try to sell him high like hotcakes and see if you can squeeze a top 25 player that's more beneficial for your team build in that perspective. Maybe you don't want to and you want to hold on to him because he's a big, right? But that's where I stand. And let me I know you've talked about Donovan Mitchell. I definitely want to talk about him again, but let me at least talk about some other guys like Royce the 5'9" O'Neal. He's still getting those minutes, 34 minutes, right? Which I don't understand, but it's okay. And a guy we talked about, Bojan Bojanovic and Hooked on Phonics, but he's shooting 6 for 15. And the thing is, he's just a scorer, but he did give you 20 points. Mike Conley, man, oh, good Lord. He pumped up the volume, but it wasn't the good volume that it was basically screeching to your ears pumping up the volume. 5 for 19, right? And 15 points. You can still buy low on him in that aspect. In a dynasty form, I'm telling you guys now, I'm not really interested in him. In a redraft league this year, he's definitely worth a buy low. But a guy, like I said, I want to talk about Donovan Mitchell because I know he had a sophomore slump last year and people were upset and irritated. And honestly, I was too, because I thought he was going to take the next step. But and the thing is, what people start to change is as soon as someone does bad, an owner or GM that does drafts, they'll be like, oh, he did me dirty this year, I'm gonna pass on him. Or they'd be like, oh, he was trash last year, so I don't want to touch him. No, man, I think that's where you start receiving your coupons, right? And that's where you could start cutting coupons. And Donovan Mitchell, honestly, he was falling in redraft leagues around the 33 to 35-ish range. I think in some, redraft leagues, dynasty formats, it was around the 20-ish back range, or even a little bit higher, maybe. Some people was aggressive in 15. I'll be honest, I was pretty aggressive getting him. I think I got him like 16 or 17 in a dynasty format. But I'll say this, some of the things that kind of hurt his value, it was because he wasn't getting to the charity stripe. And the thing is, he can get aggressive to the basket. That 10 for the 10 at the charity stripe is a beautiful sight to see. And the thing is, his steal rate had dropped last year too versus the prior year before that. So hopefully this year, he's going to maintain the pace when he was a good defender, because that rule was set out that I don't know if you remember, it was like during the summer they made it a priority to get him back in the swing of things, or even in the preseason to get his defense back, so he could focus on that, because that's what Donovan Mitchell's calling card was, right? So he wasn't really doing that last year. He's kind of doing the mixture of both this year. So that's beautiful to hear. I do enjoy Donovan Mitchell. So we'll scroll down a little bit there, LT. If there's anybody I definitely want to talk about there, Joe Ingles. I know this was a little. This pill was a tough one to swallow. I understand the 17 minutes. That's not a good sight to see. He's going to have better days. So, because Jeff Green got more minutes than him. But as far as Joe Ingles goes, I know a lot of people in the shallow league, if you're in a 10-man league, yeah, you could drop him in a 12 to 14 man league. I think you want to try to hold on to him. There's better days to come. Whether he's starting or coming off the bench, he's a good player. And one more guy I want to talk about is Tony Bradley, just because it's a kind of a dynasty podcast, but we give you guys that flavor of redraft and points leagues, right? So Tony Bradley in particular, he only got 11 minutes, but he's a guy to still be in contact with when the season goes. And that's even in redraft leagues, because let's just say hypothetically Utah solidifies a spot in the playoffs, then they start resting players, including Gobert. That's the guy you want to pick up and use for your fantasy playoffs. So I will pass you the ball there, LT, if you want to touch up on anybody there, man.
Nah, man, you hate to see it. Joe Ingles is one of those guys where you want him to get heavy minutes. I don't know whether it's just the age, or I feel like he's on the younger side, but I hate to see that. He's actually a pretty good producer and player there. So I will say this to our listeners. I'm gonna list some sage wisdom. You have to approach fantasy every year, especially in redraft and in category leagues. You got to approach fantasy like you do relationships, right? You gotta go in with that thought process of this is a new thing, right? Each one, you can't bring in old baggage every year, because if you bring in old baggage, guess what? That baggage is going to catch up to you, and then you're going to have situations like Donovan Mitchell, right? I know he hurt you last year, but that doesn't mean he's going to hurt you this year, right? It's a new year, new things, new you. So you got to think about that in fantasy, because that can hurt you when it comes for draft time. But other than that, I'm going to switch over to the Spurs Magic game. Spurs lose to the Magic tonight, 109-111. And this is a game I'm going to jump right into the Orlando side, because I know that listeners will want to hear Starks' take on his boy. I know they want to hear it, so I'm gonna switch it over to you. What do you feel about Orlando Magic and your boy?
Jonathan Isaac, is that who my boy is?
Yeah.
It looks like he had an owie here, and I think it was an ankle injury.
Yeah.
Right. So go ahead.
He got it. He was playing around. he was playing around and jumping around at a pregame event, and yeah.
you know what that reminds me of, LT?
What?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. It was like a football game. It was a kicker. He like kicked the ball and he started cheering, jumping up and down, like he fell down, like tore his Achilles or something crazy like that. So I don't know if you remember that, but I hope that this MRI comes back clean. And I think it did. I think it was more of a sprain.
Yeah,
I want to know how severe this sprain is, but man, that's tough, because this man was having a breakout. But I'm going to transition to your guy though. Yes. Aaron Gordon, there was a report.
Oh, him? I thought you were talking about my other guy.
Which one did I say?
Oh, no, you said Aaron Gordon.
Okay. Yeah, this is your other boy, I guess then. Aaron Gordon, right? So there was a report saying that he would potentially get traded, right? There was rumors that he'd get traded. I think so. Supposedly is shut down, but I think that's a bunch of hot garbage when you say that. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Gordon typically goes somewhere else. And honestly, it almost makes sense for him to get a different scenery. Just go ahead and just change this whole team up in that perspective. Al-Farouq Aminu, I'll pass you the ball on him. And then
there he goes.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Go ahead,
hey, Aminu, Al-Farouq is back, baby. So
no,
Jonathan,
it never was.
Yeah, well, he was back. He was back. So this is exactly why you pick up Al-Farouq Aminu back in the day. God. Back in the day, not now. Obviously, this is Jonathan Isaac is injured, so he got the spot start. And I'm being serious, listeners. If Jonathan Isaac is going to be out for an extended amount of time, maybe a couple games, You got to pick up Aminu in the interim. Look at this game. 4 for 8 officially. I'm really not joking. I know I'm kind of laughing, but I'm serious. 4 for 8.
Oh, you're joking.
No, I'm serious. 1 for 2. He got you a snipe.
I'm not.
8, I know you're not. 13 rebounds, 2 swipes. There it goes right there. So he can get you a potential double on every night. He really loves going after the boards. And he got you those 2 swipes. He is pretty good at getting those steals on a daily basis, on a game basis. So if you are, if you are a Jonathan Isaac owner, or if you just need someone to stream coming up next week, if Jonathan Isaac is going to be out, you may see that on the streamers list. I don't know, but Aminu is definitely someone to keep an eye on. And Eric Gordon.
Man, stop. No, I'm gonna steal the ball. Stop juicing that orange. Listen, you're juicing it so hard. It's almost like you want the White Knight to sneak him in that streaming article for this weekend. But go ahead, brother. Go ahead, man.
A quick streamer plug for White Knight, But Aaron Gordon, 4 for 15. So he was very inefficient tonight. 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block. I mean, he had a decent game, but yeah, I'm with Starks on this one. The report came out earlier. For some odd reason, I get updates on Orlando news. I don't know why, but my phone came in and advised me that they're thinking about moving him. And not to say that we just got Melo, but Portland. I would love to get Aaron Gordon over in Portland. So that would
be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think that would actually be a good fit. Probably better than Melo, to be honest. But anyways, if he does get moved, to me, it would be a situation that would probably end up being better for him. That would increase his value, and then it would actually increase Jonathan Isaac's value if he does get moved eventually, in my eyes, just because those two usually go back and forth on trying to get their performances. So I want to touch up on a points dandy, and that's Evan Fournier. Mr. Farina himself had a game tonight, 26 points, 1 steal, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. I mean, come on. I mean, all right, LT, you're telling us all these things we don't care about. I'll give you the things you do care about. 9 for 15 from the field goal, so he was efficient. 5 snipes tonight and 26 points. That's why you get Evan Almighty, right? You get him only for the points and the threes, so he got you those tonight. And I'll pass the rock back to you. Wait, I'm sorry. T-Pain had a good game as well. 7 for 13, 3 for 3 from the free throw, 3 snipes, 1 assist, no stock stats, but again, that is what you expect from T-Pain himself. So I'm gonna pass the rock over to you, Starks.
Nice. Scroll down for me a little bit there, sir.
Definitely.
So I think you touched up on everything beautifully. I was just gonna say this. Mohamed Bamba, number 5. So just to go ahead and hold on to him in the dynasty format redraft league. You shouldn't even have him right now. But I think one of the guys, Markelle Fultz, still getting the start. That's perfect. It was perfect at the charity stripe. That's beautiful. Don't want to hold too much time on that. I know some people are getting a little frustrated with Markelle Fultz, but I'll say this: just be patient with him in shallow league dynasty format. You have to be patient. But Terrence Ross, I think this was important. To talk about, because if Jonathan Isaac misses an extended period of time, Terrence Ross, if he was dropped, and I'm sure he might have been dropped in shallow leagues because he was supposed to be the 6th man, like that had the good year last year, right? But maybe this year, or not maybe this year, maybe now he can wake up from this slumbers that he's been for most of the season. This was a good game, just what LT was talking about in particular. And if he starts or even comes off the bench, hopefully, if Jonathan Isaac's out, he's definitely worth an add. Pretty much in shallow formats. In the dynasty format, he's probably already added. So, I guess we're going to go to the San Antonio side, man.
Yeah. I actually, fun fact, Starks, I know last year me and you didn't really do any fantasy with each other, but I had Terrence Ross. I was running him out there exclusively last year.
You felt them benefits, didn't you? PT
he was
Pain.
killing it. Yeah. T-Pain was killing it last year for me. And then he kind of sizzled at the end just a little bit. He did sizzle at the end, but mid-season, man, he was going off.
You know what? That's crazy, because I'm gonna share this too with you. Like, I was in an expert league as well, and I picked him up. Like, I just used him to stream, and I was like, wait a minute, like you know how you stream a player? Like, this is to the listeners too. When you stream a player and like he does so good, you're like, I don't know if I want to drop him after that game.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you basically use him another game, like, wow, he had another good game. So you're going to like ride this wave, right? The good ride. And it's like I couldn't drop him, right?
Yeah.
And it almost seemed like when he started having bad games, because he did, like you said, around the end of the season, I still wanted to hold him, and that's just crazy. That's funny that you mentioned that.
Oh yeah.
But yes, San Antonio. Yeah.
Did you? I don't really have anything to touch on San Antonio, to be honest. Just to be honest, they lost. DeMar DeRozan had a good game, in those redraft formats. I'm gonna give you some updated information on the top players. DeRozan had a decent game. Again, this is why he's fantasy cap. People look at those 3-point attempts. He's like Ben Simmons, but he doesn't get. I don't know why he hasn't. He's so good. Like, between the 3-point line and the basket, he's just so good. Why can't he hit threes? I don't know. It's so weird. But 9 for 15, 3 for 3 from the field free throw. He's always been good in that area. 5 assists, 1 steal. Just a complete DeRozan game right there. It just doesn't get any more boring than that. And then LaMarcus Aldridge, he had a decent game. I mean, he did have 5 blocks. So I didn't see that before. 5 blocks from LMA. So that's pretty good. You love to see those blocks come from LMA. That will extend his value. And I know we had a listener question recently about LMA. So hopefully he was able to get him in that money league where you can buy in the bid league. So yeah, and then I will touch on real quick, Starks, not to go on an ISO rant here. I'm gonna touch up real quick on
go ahead.
Murray's pomade and Derek White. Derek White actually lost this one today, but guess who the winner was? You think you would be Murray's pomade, right? No, it was Patty Mayonnaise. Patty Mayonnaise had 19 minutes. Okay, 6 for 9 field goals, 1 snipe. And he had 1 assist and 3 swipes and 13 points. This carousel, I want to get off now, okay? I'm getting tired of it. I want to get off the carousel. The ride is over. I'm about to throw up. I invested in Murray's pomade. Oh man, I invested in him, right? When you put your money into something and then that stock kind of crashes, you hate to see it. Now I am gonna hold, right? So this is what you got to think about. You got to hold, see what's gonna happen. Hopefully, Patty Mills's minutes start going back down, maybe 14, maybe a game, because he's not the future, and you got to see what you got in Dej and Murray's pomade and Derek White. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass the rock back to you, Stark. See if there's anybody on the Spurs you want to touch on.
Scroll down a little bit. I'll just say this. Trigger Trae Young 2.0. Trey Lyles on this one. He's starting at center. I'm just going to stream him for fun. I want to this is I should have, I'll say this to the listeners. Once you find a rival in your league, I'm telling you that now. That's one of the funnest things to do. I should have picked up Trey Lyles to use him against LT this week in a points league that we're in, just because he's starting, right? 27 minutes with the 12 rebounds and 8 points. And honestly, that's not even sexy stats, but just to use those type of players to enjoy, because I think fantasy, if you are confident that you can utilize those stats for a player, definitely use them against your opponent. But going back down, if you could, I was just thinking about, your original boy, Rudy Gay. This is really hard to stomach just talking about the Spurs. I don't know how, but we got to give the content out. And I'm sorry for those Spur fans. I apologize, but he was efficient. 6 for 12, Rudy Gay, that is, with 2 snipes, 4 rebounds, assists, and he had 14 points. He came off the bench. He doesn't have to start anymore. He only got 20 minutes, but he doesn't need those minutes. And what's wise about the Spurs is this is like Spurs-esque, because they got Rudy Gay, LMA, right? Patty Mills still. DeMar DeRozan, this is just like the perfect San Antonio team. Just a bunch of. Let's go to the next game, man. I don't want to go hard.
You about to juice them all. You about to juice that Spurs orange.
Yeah, I was about to juice that. Yeah, I was about to juice.
I was like, oh, he's juicing that Spurs orange. Hey, I will say this though, Trey, I do have Trey Lyles and a couple other, because as you listeners know, I invested in cheap big men this year, and I do have Trey Lyles in two of my other category leagues, and so I love to see this 12 rebounds, no stock stats. That's not good, but 2 snipes. He got me 2 random snipes. I didn't even know he hits threes. That's how crazy the big man circuit is right now. But I am going to switch it over to one of my favorite squads, and I think Starks actually likes the Hornets as well this year. But I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go ahead and go over. Detroit lost to the Charlotte Hornets, 106-109. And by the way, this is with Detroit at full power. They were at full power tonight. Their team. So this is a great game to look at those. Transitions to see who played what minutes, and I think I saw that Tony Snell did get hurt in this one, so he did leave the game. So that's probably why they lost, right? The Snell you later wasn't in the game. That's probably why they lost. Wasn't able to play. Didn't get a shot up. I picked them up in a league, so that's great. But Blake Griffin,
oh my God,
with 30 minutes, 6 for 19, wasn't efficient, but he's going to have some bumps in the road these first couple of games back. So definitely be patient with them if you probably held them. 6 for 6 from the charity, though. I love to see that from Blake. Hopefully he can keep that up the rest of the year. 6 assists. And I actually had Blake Griffin last year. And he was sneaking 5 assists, 6 assists, on some matches and some games on a constant basis. So he actually is a good passer as well. He doesn't get enough credit for that. He is a good passer. So look out for those assist stats being high, especially with them not really having a true point guard. And then 1 steal, 1 block, and got you those stock stats. So 19 points. And then I'm going to go on my rant. I got to go on an ISO rant real quick. 26 minutes, the Bruce Brown got the ceremonial start, but we all know who the starter in Detroit is when healthy. Derrick Rose. And man, he didn't have no thorns tonight, baby. 6 for 7. He was efficient. 2 for 2. He hit 2 snipes. Are you seeing this? 2 snipes from Rose himself. 2 free throws. 2 rebounds, 3 assists. He had 6 turnovers, but remember, he took that 1 day off. He's coming back. He's gonna hopefully string some games together for you guys, and he has 16 points. Come on now, guys. You can't get more efficient and more. Man, just amazing stats from the Rose. I'm gonna go ahead and switch it over to you, Starks, to see who you want to talk about.
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Like drumsticks, man. 20 rebounds, almost had the 20/20 vision. Unfortunately, he didn't. And then obviously, Luke Kennard, I'm your father. He got the minutes. He didn't do too much in that aspect. Bruce Brown, Bruce Almighty, didn't do too much, but he did have, is that 7 assists? I'm reading that correctly?
That's 7 assists.
And then 5 points, which is definitely handy to do and handily as well. So scroll down a little bit. Langston Galloway, I'm sick. That just makes me sick to see
you
that.
Saw that? Did you see that? Langston Hughes?
Langston. Hey, if you guys were lucky and streamed him, good job. If you had the idea that he was going to explode like this, then congrats to you. But 11 for 16, and he scored 32 points with – was that 7 snipes? That was just a game changer for you. For those that needed snipes, Christian Wood, I just leave it alone. It just makes me sick of how they use him. But that is what it is. And Markieff Morris, I'll just say his name and that's it. So we can go. we can go to Charlotte's side.
Hey, I just wanted to say, Luke, I am your father. He actually really cooled off tonight. He was actually killing it. And again, remember, this is Detroit at full power. So Snell did go down. So hopefully maybe that will keep Kennard in high minutes areas moving forward. But we'll go ahead and switch over to Charlotte, the Hornets. And I'm telling you what, Starks, this Graham guy, he's the truth. He's the truth.
He's the real deal.
He's the real deal. It's looking like we love, hearing a New Life Fantasy. I know one thing that Starks and I both love is consistency. And based on looking at some of these games, he seems consistent. Starks, what do you feel?
Yeah, he's definitely consistent, man. And even though this is inefficient, I don't care. He's pumping up the volume, 23 attempts. And you know what's funny, LT? I think I meant to ask you this before you were juiced the orange on something. There's 2 things I've noticed about you different. and this is really weird because your style has kind of changed a little bit. I don't think you were too much of a person that likes players that pumped up the volume from what I remember. You like the efficiency. Not only that, now it seems like you're looking for cheap big men. That wasn't you. That was the opposite of you.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, what kind of changed that for you around these days, brother?
Definitely. So the sage eyes. So you got sometimes, guys, when it comes to fantasy, it's good to be a student of the game as well. If you look at the game of basketball, it's changed over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and it's really kind of moving over to these guards, these guard plays. You got to think about it, right? The Golden State Warriors came out. They're running these lineups with like these guards out here. They got Draymond Green, undersized big men playing the 5. The speed of the game is kind of going up there as well. And what does that all do? That all makes it so that there's more available guards, more guards are playing, and they're shooting more shots. So based on that, I changed my style up a little bit. Really looking for a lot of guard play, and then trying to find some cheap big men. Now, in some leagues, it all depends on where you draft at as well. It makes sense to go after the good big men, but the great big men are big men who can play in those styles. So you think about Cat. You think about Drummond. Now, Drummond, he actually is very athletic as well. That's the one thing that people don't give him credit for. Drummond is super athletic. He can run. And so those type of players are the big men that are actually dominating in fantasy. And so you don't really have your old school like Tyson Chicken Wings. I know we made a joke about him earlier, but a lot of your old school Tyson Chicken Wings, they're not dominating as well as they used to in the fantasy space and in real basketball. So yeah, I kind of changed up a little bit. I used to hate guards, but having a bunch of guards. But yeah, I had to change up a little bit.
Nice. That was a good expansion on that, because I remember it was always you was one of the original Donkey Kong guys. You used to go big, right? And it's like Lewis kind of went that way. I was always kind of a guard guy. But anyways, getting back to this Devontae Graham, like you had spoken about, the 10 assists and that 18 points that he had, 5 rebounds on top of that. Beautiful sight to see. And honestly, our guy, even though he's inefficient, Dwayne Bacon, it looks like the starting job is probably going to be stolen at this point in time. Yeah. I mean, they should just let Graham start with Terry Rozier. I mean, this, I'll be honest with you, LT, I don't think I have graham crackers in any of my leagues, and I feel bad. It really hurts my soul in that aspect. He's definitely a good player, but to get Kendrick Nunn at least. But honestly, Graham is going to, if anything, okay, so obviously Graham should be the better player just because of the position that he is over Nunn, because Charlotte is such a wasteland team. They need some type of output from somebody, right? Mm-hmm. Miles Bridges has kind of been like a letdown so far this season, and he didn't even have a good game. PJ Washington is he's still doing all right, but he's starting to fade a little bit. But I think, like you were talking about, consistency is key. And Graham, I think me and you were in agreement in that, surprisingly, that we believe in him, right? Mm-hmm. And Terry Rozier, he's been doing a little bit better this season, so that's definitely good to see. If you could scroll down a little bit more, Starvin Marvin Williams is still getting minutes, I don't know. But Cody Martin, I will say this, I've been actually beating the drum up here. He's starting to get minutes, the 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 7 points, and 3 steals. I'm going to be honest with you guys. If there's a guy you want to pick up and you have someone weak on your bench, and you don't really want to stream someone, he's definitely worth an ad, because what is Batum hurt or something? What's going on with Batum? There, brother?
Yeah, Batum got hurt a couple of weeks ago, and they're not going to rush. He's not going to be rushed back. They're going to take their time with him. And even when he comes back, I feel like his role now with Graham coming out here, like you stated, Cody Martin and the Monkster as well. I'm sure you'll touch on here second. He's not going to. I don't think his role is going to be prevalent at all.
All right. And then, just like you were touching up on Monk, I'm going to basically talk about him. I might even juice that orange a little bit about him in particular, just because I was wrong last year, because I said he was going to drop 30, maybe 40 points last year, because of just the nostalgia that he kind of has from coming from college in Kentucky. But I'll say it like this. I think, and I'm just, like I said, we had those permanent markers out on, players in particular that we want to stamp in and see at the end of the year who was right, who was wrong. Who's going to eat crow with me, LT, and Jacob. So one thing I want to say in particular is Monk. If you guys seen that game, he hit the big clutch shot at the end of the game at the 3-point line.
Yep.
Definitely looked good. Monk has played a little bit better here, recently. Honestly, hopefully he gets his conditioning a little bit better, get more, maybe some more strength in that aspect. I still think, and I'm just going to, even though I'm going to just maybe double down on this again, I already said it this year, I still think he'll drop a 30 or 40-point game. If you could scroll down a little bit more, I'm just going to say it like this on Malik Monk in particular. 21 minutes, 8 for 12, 2 snipes, 4 rebounds, assist, 19 points, the plus 23 plus minus rating on the court. And the thing is with Monk, he could get on a burner so fast. And I've been stating this a lot. I don't like to do comparisons in the NBA, but if there's a guy that kind of reminds me of as a Sweet Lou, like a taller version of Sweet Lou, that he could be that type of player to give you the instant boost offense so fast. He could be on a burner so fast. But it just hasn't translated, unfortunately, in the NBA. Could he do that? He could potentially do it, but it's just the inconsistencies with him. It sucks, right? I'll say it like this. If you're more in a deeper format, then maybe you can pick him up and be an additional on your team. Dynasty format, I was still trying to buy him. And honestly, I should have been knocking at Lewis's door because he's like, oh, yeah, Monk Jarvis, man. That's his moniker, as LT would say. Oh, yeah, I got Monk Jarvis. It's like, and then you were like, Lewis was like, "What Starks, man? I thought you believe in the Monk." And I'm like, "Yeah, I still do." He's like, "Man, this dude sucks." And he just likes Monk because of his name, Monk Jarvis,
basically,
right? Exactly. That's the only way he likes it, just like Aaron Baines, right? Feel the venom, right?
That's the only reason.
And it's funny because Baines is doing good, first time in his career. It's odd, needless to say, but juicing this orange and then let the situation go on Monk. I hope better days is to come. Obviously, with these last couple games, it's better days, but hopefully I'd look for an extended amount of good games coming. Especially, listen, man, although this looks like a wasteland team, to have Malik Monk, right? Then you have Terry Rozier and then Devontae Graham. If you guys kind of intertwine those guys together, I'm going to be honest with you. I know some people wasn't fans of this wasteland team, but I think you said, LT, you kind of like them too, right?
No.
You don't?
No, I'm just kidding. No. I think you secretly like the Hornets a little bit.
I think I secretly do. I think I do. So no, in that aspect, Charlotte, Devontae Graham, hopefully Miles Bridges gets better. And then obviously we were talking about PJ Washington. So I'm done juicing the orange on Monk there, brother. We can move on.
Yeah, as soon as they Starvin Marvin, as soon as they drop his minutes down and get PJ Washington more time, he only had 18 minutes tonight. So hopefully PJ Washington's time goes up and Starvin Marvin gets. I mean, come on now, 30 minutes. We already know what he can do, and it's not a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to there we go, the Philly OKC game, and
yes,
OKC ends up winning tonight 127 to 119 against Philly. Philly is losing a lot last couple. They've lost last couple games. But I'll go ahead and touch up on Philly real quick. There's not too much I want to talk about here. The main one that I want to talk about is Josh Richardson. He had a nice game tonight, 10 for 15, 3 snipes, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He had 4 turnovers, but 1 steal and 28 points. So in those point formats, you love to see it. I'll also just touch up on Joel Embiid real quick. Big man, 12 for 24, 4 for 8. This is a good bounce back game for Embiid. And the most important thing, I know the stats look great. I know a lot of you guys like the big 12 rebounds, 31 points. The main thing we like to see in the fantasy world is that minutes. 37 minutes for Joel Embiid, and that's it, right? That's the main thing we want to see. We want to see him keep his minutes high. If he can stay in these games, because he's always flirting with fouling out, so those minutes are always restricted, but 37 minutes is just a good thing to see. If he can string together, it doesn't have to be 37 minutes every night, but if he can string together 30-plus minute, 30, 32-minute games in a row, these numbers and these averages are going to just go up by, he's just too talented for them not to. So I'll go and I mean, if you got Al Horford playing 36 minutes, you better play more minutes than Al Horford, because I mean, he's father time himself. But I'm going to go ahead and switch the rock over to you, Starks. Anybody from Philly that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, talk about minutes. Ben Simmons, right? Ben and Jerry's, right? 45 minutes, 33 seconds in this game in particular. 6 for 8. 11 rebounds, 8 assists, almost a triple double, right? And
Mm-hmm.
16 points. But Tobias Harris, he had a better game. It was efficient wise, right? 8 for 16, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 21 points. Definitely a good sight to see. If you could scroll down there a little bit, there, brother.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was going to talk about Furkan Korkmaz. So he didn't start, but it's honest. I think it's safe to say right now he's getting the rotation minutes right from the bench. He wasn't efficient. 1 for 7. He hit a snipe, 2 assists, 3 points. So nothing there, right? But he was the sixth man of this game in particular. If you can scroll down a little bit more and just kind of looking at this, it's like, oh, where's he at? It's Matisse Thybulle, as LT would say, Thybully. Only got 4 minutes. It's a sad thing to see. Unfortunately, he's not doing it right now. If you're in a 10-man league, I would hope you've already cut him at this point in time. 12-man league, yeah, you could borderline cut him too. Dynasty format, like I said, I'm still going to try to buy him and poach him off of Coach. And honestly, I think you could buy him because he's really at his lowest at this point in time. Philly, that's it. If we could just go ahead and transition to the OKC, definitely want to touch up on them a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now,
you got something to say?
No, I was going to say something real quick with Korkmaz. Like I stated in the last pod, he's a coach's dandy, and so sometimes a coach, if a coach has a player that they like, even if the other player involved is more talented, they still go with that coach's dandy. So Korkmaz is looking to get the minutes until further notice. Definitely, I would Thybully in 12-man teams. I would probably say you want to cut. He's just not getting the minutes to warrant a roster spot right now. And then I just wanted to mention about the rotations. Philly is really, these rotations are getting real tight for Philly. So guys, keep an eye on that. Those rotations are really getting tight. I only see really only 8 people, about 8 players got regular minutes. So Korkmaz looks like the guy to own in a 6-man, for this on this team as far as minutes is concerned. But we'll go ahead and switch over to OKC, brother. You got anybody you want to touch up on in OKC?
Yeah, and real quick, just to highlight what you kind of said, be careful with those starters, man, because that's the potential of getting injured, running that Thibodeau type of starting offense, right? Mm-hmm. But let's go ahead in Oklahoma City, like you said. I want to say this, that it looks like I'm kind of having a hard time. Go ahead and take the ball because I'm having bad service here, brother.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So I want to touch up on Chris Paul because I actually have him in one of our leagues here. And I picked him up as I thought was a coupon clipping, but it looks like it was his proper ADP where I picked him up at. But 7 for 13, he had a game. 12 for 12 from the charity line. I love to see that from him. 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 27 points. So it's just he had a great game tonight. Hopefully he can string together some good games like this. I don't expect him to do this every night. That's not what you expect Chris Paul to do, but you expect him to have some. And one of the main things that I'm kind of worried about is he's not swiping the ball like he used to. Chris Paul used to be good for 2 to 3 swipes per game. Seriously, per game. In fantasy circles, he would win you those steal categories just by himself. So he's kind of, he's getting older, but he had that plus 16 plus minus tonight. And hopefully this is a string for a couple of good games in a row. Danilo Gallinari, send him to the gallows. I know Starks remembers that. Send him to the gallows. 7 for 11. 11. They really hit that free throw line. Ben Simmons did foul out of this game, so that explains some of these free throw numbers here. 11 for 11, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. No stock stats. Hey, guess what? That's exactly what you expect from the gallows himself. No stock stats, but he got you 28 points. Man, just killing it. I'll switch it over to you, Starks, if you want to touch up on anyone.
Yeah, I'm a little upset that Terrence Ferguson had a good game just because Hamidou Diallo wasn't able to play this game in particular. But for Terrence Ferguson to have this type of game, hopefully this doesn't make Hamidou Diallo come back from the bench. You touched up on Gallinari, that is, as well. SGA had a decent game, 9 for 19, 3 assists, that's 2 steals and 24 points. So definitely his team, just like you touched up on CP3, definitely had an excellent game. Steven Adams real quick, but you can scroll down. Steven Adams real quick. I will say this in particular about him. I know some people are like, well, Russell Westbrook is gone, so maybe he's going to get the rebound count back up. I didn't really look at it that way just because it just didn't seem right. And it doesn't seem to be right. He's not getting those rebounds right. So that's an unfortunate thing. There could be better days to come. But honestly, I'm just not interested in Steven Adams in format. So if he has like a moment where he does good in the game, he's worth a sell high. And as you scroll down, thank you right there. So Dennis Schroeder in particular, he's still like the sixth man there. I remember I thought he was going to be pretty decent a few years ago, but it's not going to pan out, especially in OKC with all the guards with CP3 and SGA at this point in time. So it sucks for him. Baisley hooked on phonics. He's just a guy that you could kind of just look at from a distance in a dynasty format, redraft format. In a deep redraft format, you don't even need to put your eyes on him at this point in time. So, and then Nerlens Noel is just a shallow streamer, just to be honest. So that's all I got there, brother.
All right. Yeah, that's all I got as well. Nothing really too much other than that. So as far as that is concerned, that's pretty much all the games that finished. We still have games going on, and I'm going to have to try to get back to those. It just hit 12 o'clock over in our area. So those games switching over to the next day. But I didn't know whether you had any other things you want to talk about, brother.
No, just pretty much almost to the clutch shots if you'd like, or if you want to just touch up a little bit about Golden State. If not, we can just kind of get to the clutch.
No, I'll go ahead and get that moved up here. Golden State, Golden State, Boston, and then I'll touch up on this real quick. Boston is looking good. They're winning right now, 61-54 of Golden State. We know Golden State's a wasteland team, but they do have two of their stars back, so we'll see what's going on with those two.
Who would ever thought to say wasteland team to Golden State? That's crazy.
Hey, no, go ahead. It feels good too. It feels good. I said that from my gut. It felt real good. The thesis just stole the ball from D'Lo. Let's go. The thesis is in this game. He is playing tonight. 2 for 3, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block. Getting you those stocks ass. What's the thesis? Hey. And then he just attempted a 3-pointer. Okay. I'm not gonna pay attention to these play-by-plays. Jason,
hey man, YouTube would probably ban us playing some of this game.
I would love to play, but YouTube ain't playing around with the content. Exactly. Jason Tatum, 5 for 12. 6 for 7. We talked about him pumping up the volume. He's definitely going to get probably more than 15 shots this game. So 17 points already. He, like I stated before, him and Jaylen Brown are picking up where G. Hay may have left off with his injury. I'm going to pass the rock over to you, Starks. Anything you see early on in this game?
I was just going to also say, kind of double down, Kemba Walker, 1 for 11. Jason Tatum, I think, had 17 points in the first half, and it looks like he's still there. That was like a career high for him. So, as we know, we talk about Jason Tatum in particular. So that's if you could scroll down a little bit more. Brad Wanamaker, this is beautiful to see. And then the Time Lord, both of them guys are getting the top of the rotation minutes from the bench. That is, I mean, obviously we're recording while games are going on. So this is just a beautiful sight to see. And Brad Wanamaker, man, like, I'm going to be honest with you, like, in a dynasty format, the steal and 8 points, that is something that I'm paying attention to, right? And the plus minus is 15, if I'm reading that correctly. I mean, that's definitely a good sight to see. Time Lord, if he gets the minutes, he could be a dandy for you guys that are in category leagues, especially in points leagues, because he can get you those slaps, also known as blocks. Carson Edwards from the bench, he's starting to get minutes. This obviously still comes on the heels of G. Hay being out. And this is interesting, LT. You see this? Enes Kanter is not getting the minutes, right? So I will pass you the ball. What's your thoughts on that? All the other players from the bench is getting more minutes than him right now.
Yeah, so Cantaloupe, he did come in and play. Now, we did mention that the game that he did have some high minutes, I think the Time Lord and the Thesis weren't playing in that game. And so he got those minutes, but it looks like he is at the end of the rotation. I did see a clip coming out that I think maybe either a clipping that I read or that maybe White Knight may have enlightened us on, but the Boston is all about defense, and Kanter does not. He's not a defensive guru whatsoever, and so if he's not going to be fitting into that, that starting lineup, then man, he's not going to get the minutes. And Time Lord and the Thesis, they both are defensive specialists, so they're that's what they're there for. So I don't look good for Cantaloupe's outlook. He still will get minutes because he'll still come off the bench and relieve those two guys, but those guys are definitely in the head.
And then also on top of that, maybe they're probably playing the matchups too, so that could be
true.
One of those things because Cantor is more of a scorer than versus a defender. So we could actually just jump on to the Golden State side. I just want to see who's as you know, I think if there's anything, although they're unfortunately turned into a wasteland team, I just want to see who's going to formulate right from that squad. Now, Draymond Green, he's back, right? And see, this is the beautiful thing that we could talk about Draymond Green. And just like when LT went on an ISO on him hard and he ranted about him because he's not a high usage rate. He's not going to take the shot attempts. Like, look at this. He's only taken 5 attempts. Pretty much he's tied with the less amount of attempts. He's tied with Willie Cauley-Steins, right? And we're recording while games are going on. So, it's going to change, right? But the thing is, I want to just look at is Eric Pascal. He's still the starter, it looks like here. And that's a beautiful thing because I was a little concerned with D'Angelo and Draymond Green coming back. But it looks like Eric Pascal has earned the starting position. Hopefully, if that's the case, 5 for 11 to snipe, 8 rebounds, and he's got 13 points. That's going to change here soon in that aspect. So D'Angelo Russell's he's doing all right right now. So
9.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just going to say 9 turnovers already for deloading. He's about to hit a double off of turnovers. You hate to see it.
Perfect. And I was just going to say, scroll down a little bit more. So Glenn Robinson III, I'm tired of him starting, but that's unfortunate. The Pool Shark and Kai Bowman are guys that we thought maybe would get some runs, just not doing anything. Alec Burks, he's still getting the minutes, so we'll leave it there, and that's all I got for that, man. So did you have anything else you want to touch up on there, brother?
No, we got one more game we could touch on real quick. We'll do a real quick of the Sacramento Los Angeles game, and the Lakers are winning, and they're looking real good this year. They 67-63 for Sacramento and the Lakers. I'll touch up on Sacramento real quick. Holmes on Holmes, you know that's my guy. 4 out of 7, 5 rebounds. He is a fantasy surprise this year. And then so he's doing good this game. Harrison Barnes is doing decent. But Bejeweled is doing decent this year.
Nemanja
Bjelica. And then Corey Joseph. It's weird that Bogdan Bog on the Sacramento's Bog version is not starting tonight. I'm very don't know why that is the case. I don't understand why Nemanja is starting over him or even Harrison, but I digress. Corey Joseph is having a pretty awful game as well. So I'll pass the rock over to you, Starks. Anyone in specific you wanted to touch up on?
No, I just got a report. I've obviously we're watching this game too a little bit. Looks like the trainers were looking at D'Angelo Russell's thumb, so maybe that could be an excuse for him to miss the next couple of games just because Golden State is what it is. But
thumb contusion.
So looks like you already touched up on Holmes, and this is touched up on Buddy Hield. All of his shots is from the not the charity stripe, but the snipe shot. All of his 3-pointers has been his shots. With the 5 rebounds, 3 assists, the steal fall into a lucky stat at this point in time since he doesn't get steals like I thought maybe he would get this year. 18 points. And we could just jump onto the Lakers real quick there, brother.
Yeah, real quick. The Lakers are just, they're a well-oiled machine for the Lakers, to be honest with you. LeBron's doing his thing. Already has 9 assists in this game. You definitely can see him getting 10 this game. And he's actually, we haven't talked about LeBron a lot because their games are a lot later. So a lot of times they're never finished when we talk on the podcast. But he's been killing it this year. Just to be honest, he is a walking triple-double monster. And if you're in those category leagues with those triple doubles, he's winning you those cats every week. But he's killing it. And then Anthony Davis is playing tonight, 3 for 5. He's only taken 5 shots, less than Danny Green, which is concerning. But exactly 6 for 8 from the charity, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. And I don't know about you, Starks, and I'll do this real quick, but everyone was so high on Anthony Davis at the beginning of the year. He's a first round, a first pick, second pick, third pick. He doesn't seem like he was one of those guys that you want to get in that. You almost wanted to pick up LeBron before Anthony Davis so far this year. What do you feel like?
I won't say all that.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that, but I will say this. I obviously, as you know, Okay, Anthony Davis is a good player. He's a good fantasy player. He's a good NBA player. I just never thought he was a number one pick, even in a dynasty format, redraft. Now, I will say this. Maybe last year I thought potentially he was probably the number one pick just because of when Boogie had went to the Golden State. Was it last year, right? Or was it? Oh, gosh, did I get that wrong? Yeah. Boogie. Yeah, so year before, something like that. So Anthony Davis was like the only guy there. So I was just thinking like maybe he's going to be the guy. But obviously, as you know, the Anthony Davis situation is like he was the rumors was coming out that he was going to get traded and stuff like that nature, and then he was getting benched most of the season, and a lot of people was as fluid as say pissed off. They were mad. Yeah. They were mad, right? For especially fantasy owners and obviously people that watch the NBA, because since he didn't get traded to LA that time, instead of finally signing this year to LA, people were getting frustrated, and he was putting up those potential numbers, but. Anyways, getting back to the point here, I always just had Cat as the number one player in fantasy and dynasty formats. It was borderline redraft. I still it was like a Harden. I'll flip a coin for me in a redraft league. It was either Harden or Towns, honestly. But in all dynasty formats, number one player is Cat for me, not even thinking twice. And then Greek Freak. And it's like, Greek Freak is fine. The percentages is kind of concerning. And I know he made a bump up last year in the free throw percentage, but I just didn't think it was just my gut feeling. I didn't know if it was going to be the same. And honestly, he's not doing good at the free throws line. No. So kind of tying it back to Anthony Davis in particular, better days are going to come for him. Okay. But, as of right now, he could still potentially be a top 3 player. I would just give it some time. Just number one player. That's a no for me, dog.
All right. And Kuzma has been playing well as well in limited minutes, coming back from his injury. Just wanted to make sure we mention that. And the second best player who we thought was going to be Anthony Davis on the Lakers is actually Alex Caruso. Fun fact. All games that Alex Caruso have played in and actually touched up, the Lakers have won. So just want to make sure you guys are aware of that crazy stat.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, let's go ahead and transition to the clutch.
All right, what's your clutch shot, brother?
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Oh, my bad. Losing reception. Yeah. So, was you ready for the clutch? My bad, brother. I missed that.
No. I mean, I can say my clutch shot. My clutch shot is just definitely, guys. We appreciate all of the views. All the people, remember, check out that YouTube. Again, any suggestions, we're leaving a nice little question on each video now, so you guys can answer those questions below. We can get some conversations going on what you guys think, because we are giving you our take, but we also are interested to see what you guys' opinions are as well in the fantasy community. So definitely leave your opinions. We love to have that conversation and keep that constant conversation going for fantasy basketball. And I just want to drop a little quick nugget, guys. I know some of you fantasy basketball guys are like us, also in fantasy football. Our website is not just basketball. We also have fantasy football blogs that our guy White Knight, he is churning out these blogs. He has week 11 streamers on here for dynasty football, and even good enough for regular as far as the those leagues. So, and baseball's coming up soon too. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that we are your one-stop shop for most fantasy sports in general as well. So just take that nugget for you, and I'll switch it over to Starks.
Nice. So Sub-Zero, that subscribe button to everything that he mentioned, especially the YouTube channel, especially newlifefantasy.com, right? Especially Take a Ride podcast, subscribe, review, everything that the list that he said. So my clutch shot is, I want to mention that you're probably like, why is this guy wearing a tie? And actually, I took the hat off just because one of the goals that I wanted to do when creating the site, as you guys know, we share our faith in Christ, Jesus Christ. And again, it may not be something that you want to hear about in particular, but I just wanted to open up someone I was able to reach out to someone in that aspect. If you could touch up on that article in that aspect as LT's doing, you guys, when you get a chance, check out the website, because that was actually someone that touched someone's soul in that aspect. And I'll let the listeners, when you ever have time to just check it out, it changed them in the aspect that it encouraged them to do something different. And what we try to invite you guys and share our faith in anything. Honestly, out of fantasy, we enjoy fantasy a lot, like you guys do listen to us. But if there's anything that I love to share, and I will be always open to that format, and you can DM me. It doesn't have to be in public, or DM any of us. So just talk about the faith. And if you're interested to know, let us know. And that if there's anything, as you guys know, since I've been doing this podcasting for about a year and some change, right? But guys know I have a passion for this, but you can only imagine what my passion is in the faith. So I just appreciate you listeners. We definitely love you, right? So that is my clutch shot in that aspect. I'm looking forward to what the great things that you guys are doing and helping us, supporting us. So just make sure that you are continuing. I know it's like a commercial to do those reviews and the subscribe, and tell your friend, even if it's an opponent, just tell them to subscribe to it, or just a family member or friend, because that will help us to continue to put out daily episodes, to continue to put the content behind the website. I'm continue to put the work in. LT is continuing to work on the YouTube channels. Like, he's putting out excellent content out there. So check out that, our faces is out there, right? It's real. We're coming, right? It's only a matter of time. So you guys can find me on my Twitter handle. It's at Starks_industry. You can also find me on Instagram, One Closing Hero. We're on, Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all podcasts. So you guys give me a follow, ask me any questions, and I'll get back with you at a prompt time. I'll pass you the ball. LT, where can they find you out there, brother?
Definitely. They can find me at _Sage Network _ on Instagram. They can also find me on Sage Network X on Twitter. Just send me any DMs, any questions, anything. I'm scouring, man. I'm looking at my phone all day, looking for anything coming through to try to get back to you guys at prompt times.
All right, guys. So with that being said, have a good evening, morning, afternoon, and take a ride.